Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 436th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So while the idiosyncratic living legend Busta Rhymes is nowhere near a new face to the channel, with reviews for classic solo projects like 1997's When Disaster Strikes and 1998's Extinction Level Event, which I'll leave links for down below in the description, just in case you want some more background on this hip-hop icon. Today I wanted to break some new ground by finally doing a review for the group that started it all for Busta, Leaders of the New School, comprised of Charlie Brown, Dinko D, Cut Monitor Milo, and of course Busta Rhymes. LOTNS was, in a way, even more of a black sheep than the actual duo themselves. Because even though I brought up in the past how acts like Brand Nubian and Black Sheep were technically members of the coveted Native Tongues collective, they just didn't really take off or get the kind of attention some of the main acts did, those being Queen Latifah, Jungle Brothers, A Tribe Called Quest, and De La Soul. Despite common misconception, Leaders of the New School weren't actually ever members of the Native Tongues. It was more just a movement they were around and loosely affiliated with. This really isn't even speculation at this point because Busta himself clarifies that the group was never actually on the roster, and he even details how badly they wanted to be. It just never ended up happening for one reason or another. Though obviously Busta Rhymes and Q-Tip have been extremely close friends for nearly 40 years now, and they've done a number of classic collaborations over that time span. In fact, the guest appearance that really solidified Leaders of the New School as exactly what their name described them as was when they showed up on the legendary Posse Cut Scenario off of my favorite Tribe album, Low End Theory. And while I'm sure Busta saw more commercial success with certain later collaborations with the likes of Janet Jackson or Chris Brown, it's hard to argue that his show-stopping closing verse on the Scenario remix isn't his most historic and impactful performance. I mean, when you really think about it and do the research, you'll find that there's practically no posse cut in the history of hip-hop that is more highly revered than Scenario, and to have the top verse, despite being a relatively new name on the scene, resulted in invaluable attention and clout that was then able to be funneled into the debut by Leaders of the New School, A Future Without a Past, which had dropped a few months prior that same year in '91. The only other full-length project that these guys put out before dispersing due to internal and creative differences was 1993's Time, or The Inner Mind's Eye, which received somewhat mixed reception from critics and fans. But I actually think it builds on a number of the best qualities of the debut here, and I'll probably get around to covering it on the page eventually, after I manage to acquire a physical copy, obviously. But back to A Future Without a Past, it may not have been a platinum-selling LP, nor is it an album you frequently hear named as someone's favorite, but not only was it pivotal in launching the ever-expanding career of Busta Rhymes, it actually is a very enjoyable listen from front to back if you are in that late 80s, early 90s headspace. And even if they didn't officially have the Native Tongue stamp, that didn't stop them from experimenting with a sound and style that almost sort of sounded like a halfway point between A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul. I think arguably the main reason this album hasn't gained the type of cult status and acclaim that other similar releases of the time have is because it came at a kind of awkward and transitionary era for the genre, where even though new ideas and sounds were being embraced, there is a degree of written material that just hasn't aged quite as well as some of the other 1991 classics. And it's pretty few and far between, but depending on what member you're listening to, there's a chance you'll occasionally get a flow that makes you cringe a little bit, but that just might be my perception, because I'm sure it hits you totally different if you were actually outside during this time. I don't want to make it seem like I'm bashing the overall lyrical content here, so I want to share the opening verse from one of my favorite tracks, and it actually isn't going to come from Busta Rhymes just because he's already had his own spotlights on the channel in the past. Instead, I want to share some bars from Charlie Brown, starting where he says, "Just when you thought it was safe, hey yo, now let your homeboy in on the scoop. Yo, but now your life is turning for a loop. and things, aren't so great in paradise. Shit, your friend is kicking it to your girl, left you, leaving you, and now you just contemplate suicide just when you thought it was safe. Since the verses here are so short, I might as well share Dinko D's part as well, where he stays on the same theme, rapping, "My man, to take that plane overseas, and then the terrorist group, the Killer Bees, claims a bomb is on board your flight and due to explode in the boom. Now you're on a mission to nowhere like an innocent victim. It's sad, quite a shock, and really disturbing, just when you thought it was safe." To be honest, while I enjoy the imagery and idea of that song, I've never really been positive why they aren't even rhyming half the time, but regardless, we have a handful of guest appearances who showed up for this debut full-length, including Geronimo, Boogie Knight, Shaw Now, The Remedy Man, Cool Whip, Brittle, and Collie Weed. As for the production, that was covered by the likes of Eric Vietnam Sadler, Gibi DeJohnny, John Gamble, Dante Ross, the Vibe Chemist Backspin, as well as all 4 members of Leaders of the New School themselves. When it comes to my honorable mentions for this one, I want to recommend tracks like Too Much on My Mind, What's the Pinocchio Theory, Sob Story, Transformers, Show Me a Hero, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, International Zone Coaster, Teachers Don't Teach Us Nonsense, and Where Do We Go From Here. Then for my overall top 3 favorites this time around, I think I would have to go with Case of the PTA, Just When You Thought It Was Safe, and The Sound of the Zeekers. Thank you for watching my 436th video. Next time we're staying in New York to discuss a legendary supergroup that's only been on the channel once before, so keep an eye out for that upload, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what moments off this debut have aged the best in your opinion. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.